That's the choice that you're going to be facing in November. It's a choice between the policies that led us into this mess and the policies that are leading us out of this mess. It's a choice between falling backwards or moving forward.
President Obama is hitting the campaign trail and really ramping up the rhetoric against the Republicans.
Absolutely, laying groundwork for November, but is it having any resonance? Top Line begins right now.
Welcome to ABC News Washington Post Top Line. I'm Karen Travers.
And I'm Yunji Denise in for the ladies edition this Friday.
And every day here at noon Eastern Time, we bring you the latest politics, news, analysis, a little bit of sports today. And you can even follow us on Twitter at Twitter/The Note. Yunji, why don't you kick us off?
Well, we're starting with Spy for a Spy. All eyes on the Vienna International Airport this morning as that highly orchestrated exchange. 10 Russian spies here accused in the U.S. for 4 Russians accused in Russia. That swap obviously underway, and apparently these alleged spies are headed to the Dulles International Airport. Wonder what life will be like for them. Also, very interesting, Karen, that they have been able to pull this off without a lot of damage, it seems, to the U.S.-Russia relationship.
And you wonder if this could have been pulled off back at the end of the Bush administration when that relationship was really strained and tensions were very high. It seems like this might be President Obama and President Medvedev wanting to make sure that the relationship stays as good as possible.
Staying above the fray. Very
Absolutely.
interesting.
The decision. No, not LeBron James going to Miami. We've had enough of that. We're not talking about that anymore. This is all about what President Obama is saying that voters have to make in November when they head to the voting booth. This is the choice between moving backwards, going with the Republican policies, moving forward, staying with the Democratic policies. Any incumbent party wants to make this about a choice, not a referendum. That might be difficult, though, for this White House to do and for the Democrats to do because Americans want to see progress on jobs, the unemployment rate. And so far, they're not seeing anything very tangible that would say, all right, let's keep these guys in there.
Absolutely. I feel like once a week we see him either in a factory, some kind of an energy plant, always talking about jobs, how it's not happening fast enough, but it doesn't really seem to be going anywhere. It'll be tough for the president to make that case. We move on now to the drilling debate. The Obama administration fighting with local state leaders in the Gulf, along with a lot of businesses who they have been now struck down. The Obama administration's efforts to enforce that drilling moratorium looks like it's not working out for them. And this is really difficult, I think, for the president and for the administration because, again, they're at odds with the very people they need to be working with in the Gulf.
I also think it's interesting how this has been on the back burner, just the Gulf. We haven't heard President Obama talk about it in days. Now you're seeing it go through the legal system, but maybe it's time for President Obama to get back down there again, do another event with these people that are obviously calling for this drilling ban to be lifted. They want that. They need that for their economy down there.
Absolutely.
Late night Biden. Set your DVRs. We're staying tonight, 11:35. Vice President Biden is going to be sitting down with Jay Leno on The Tonight Show. Yunji, when the vice president walks onto that stage, how many White House staffers are sitting there biting their nails?
Absolutely. And how many of us are going to stay in tonight to watch this? When the vice president goes and talks off the cuff, especially in that setting, who knows what he'll say?
Though I have to think that maybe this means they are confident enough in him that he could sit there for 20 minutes and present a talking points presentation.
If nothing else, it'll make for good late night comedy.
Absolutely. Tune into that tonight. Now we turn to our guest, Roger Bennett, who is the co-host of ESPN.com's Off the Ball and the co-author of ESPN's World Cup Companion. Roger, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, a little bit of a mix here today, normally politics, but now we're bringing in some soccer because that's the big news this weekend. And we wanted to talk to you a bit about the global impact of the World Cup. So I know it's not finished yet. There are still 2 more games to play, but rate Africa's World Cup a success?
I mean, every World Cup has its own unique flavour. This World Cup is no different. It's been a remarkable spectacle. It's the greatest soap opera on earth. On Sunday, when the game kicks off, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time, over 715 million people are planning to tune into the thing. It's like a global eclipse that instantaneously sweeps the earth. So the plot lines of this one have been rich, remarkable, quirky. There's been a German octopus who's been calling every single game and predicting them with an incredible insight into how soccer's played. So I could say it's had a little bit of everything.
You know, I wonder, there had been a lot of talk of the president himself going there. We're all waiting for this big Africa trip that at some point he is supposed to do. We had hoped that it would happen around the World Cup, we in the White House press corps at least, so that we could go see a few games ourselves. It did not happen. I wonder, do you think the president missed an opportunity by not going to Africa himself?
Well, I think the Africans were elated that he wasn't there. They were terrified of the security risk. Joe Biden did go. He looked as if he wished he hadn't. He sat there during the opening game with a blanket over his knees, with his earplugs in place. South Africa scored the greatest goal, arguably, of this World Cup. He barely moved. Desmond Tutu ran about in the stands like a manic goblin. It was not an American ambassador's finest day. Bill Clinton's made himself incredibly visible, whether it was for good or for bad. You'll have to ask the US team, who had a beer or 7 with him ahead of their defeat to Ghana. But I think America has been wonderfully well represented on the field, and there's a lot to be proud of.
Now, Bill Clinton was there as a fan, as a supporter of the U.S. team. He also was there as part of the lobbying effort to get the World Cup to the United States in 2018. President Obama has met with the head of FIFA last summer. He was also doing that lobbying effort. At this point, given the U.S. performance, given the fan base and the attention, do you think the U.S. has done enough to make the case that FIFA will give us the World Cup in 8 years?
I mean, FIFA is like a medieval fiefdom. It's very hard to analyse exactly how it comes to any of the decisions that it makes. But America is a massive marketplace, and everybody knows that soccer here is a sport on the uptick. The viewing figures for ESPN have been absolutely remarkable. It's not going to be an overnight change in terms of the popularity, but there's a steady growth. The team's performance, they played with pluck, verve and valour that really captured the imagination of the nation. Soccer, the World Cup coming here is definitely the next big building block in terms of the game's development here. There's rumours that 2014 and the Brazil bid is not going to plan, that it'll be yanked and will come to America. I don't think that will occur, but if I was a betting man or a betting octopus, I would believe that there will be good news come 2022.
What do you think this has done in terms of global politics? We end up with 2 European teams in the final. I know there is some disappointment there. So many people had really hoped that this would be more of an international, so to speak, finals, as opposed to having these European powerhouses. What do you think, though, this has done in terms of global awareness and really diplomacy?
Well, I think the big storyline, this started off as the World Cup of Africa. Africa has waited far too long to host the tournament. I think South Africa have done remarkably well. It became the South American World Cup briefly. Their teams did unbelievably well. They played with a ferocity and a commitment to offence, but they evaporated when it got to the business end of the tournament. And it is, as Joe Scarborough calls it, the World Cup of NATO. Holland against Spain in the final. But I think ultimately the big storyline is, what will the legacy be for South Africa? When FIFA awarded them the tournament, they promised that they would eradicate AIDS and make education come to first world levels, eradicate poverty, huge promises. The GDP did rise. UBS estimated it moved to about 2.2% in terms of an uptick. But what the long-term foreign investment will be in South Africa after this marvellous spectacle, this remarkable showcase, that will be the ultimate legacy of the tournament, and we'll have to wait to see.
Roger, finals on Sunday. What's your prediction?
Indeed. Well, the Octopus picked Spain, and they play a beautiful game. It's like as if a student controlling a PlayStation is just zipping the ball around between their tiny little midfielders. Holland are an amazingly tuned defence with some fast breakaway possibilities. Spain have won every game thus far 1-0, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the storyline come Sunday.
ESPN's Roger Bennett, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Go with the octopus. I think we're going to need an octopus for November elections, too. Just put them around the country.
That would be a great way to do some politics. I love it.